This week's channeled message from the angels is a Q&A session about world events. And it is so great to be back, you guys. I am so sorry I missed last week. I had COVID, so I am sorry I couldn't be with you, but I'm thrilled to be here now. And for those of you who are just joining in, welcome to my channel. My name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. And today's message is all about world events. So they start off with sort of an overview there, their usual message they give us. And then after that, there's a question and answer period where we go into more details around what's happening in different regions of the world, about the economy, lots of detailed stuff in there that I hope you will find helpful. But most importantly, you'll notice through the whole thing is their perspective, which is always hopeful, always helping to show us and help us find the path through that's going to put us on our own path to awakening. All right, I hope you enjoy the message. Okay, so I have to jump literally right into the message today because it's huge. My son helped me. We channeled. He asked questions, and we channeled, and I got a bunch of stuff all about world events. So I want to share it with you guys. Some of it is so interesting. I really was reflecting back on it, on the messages that they're giving us. And some of these are messages that you've heard before. So it'll be a sort of a reiteration, and some of it is new. But the thing that's so interesting to me now is that the first time they said this stuff, it was so far-fetched. It was like, oh, how could that ever be? And now it's happening. And that it really, boy, yeah, it really brought it home. So, okay, are you guys ready? Let's dig in. Oh, and before I do, quick reminder, if you want to join us for peace bathing, it is this Sunday, and you can find out about it on my website, antucker.com. And this Sunday is peace bathing, and it's such an amazing, I'm actually going to have to go back and rewrite what the description of peace bathing is, because it has evolved. And this is now, I'm going to have to relaunch it pretty soon in another month or so, and explain this is now a really intensive healing program that the angels, they never want to waste a moment. So I will tell you more about it. But just so you know, if you want to join in, it is this Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, on my website, antucker.com. All right. And glad you made it, Estelle. So good to see you guys. Hi, Dawn and Amina and Betty. So good to see you guys. All right. So let's jump right in. Here it is. There are happenings on the precipice beginning. You're already perceiving their origination. They started already. You're perceiving them now. Fortuitous times forthcoming, there is opportunity yet. There are instances in this instigation which do alleviate pain and suffering for many. There are instances in the happenings from now which will catapult humanity forward. But also in these times coming of darkness enfolding the many, there are opportunities in this happening for those who are wandering to become composed, to refine themselves. Hither and thither scattered, they can become once again integrated and clear in their mindset. So I love that throughout this whole message, the angels are telling us, yeah, there's difficult stuff coming. There's things that, in that, all the stuff they've described, and they do go into it in more detail here. But through the whole thing, there is a message of hope. And I love that they start with this. Of course they do, right? Of course they start with this. And they say, okay, in all of this, at the same time that we are experiencing unraveling in so many ways, at the same time, this unraveling is creating the opportunities that are going to lead humanity forward. So there's things they said specifically. I love what they said. There are instances in this instigation. So the instigation is like the beginning of all this unraveling, which do alleviate pain and suffering for many. So this is the kind of stuff that we can expect going forward, new technologies, new ways of doing and being, and maybe running ourselves as people, right? How do we organize ourselves? How do we treat each other, right? So what are not only our technology, our systems, our ways of being in the world with each other, all of these things can be evolving and becoming better. So I think this specifically is speaking to the possibility of new technologies and things like that. So they also say that in this, that because of all this, it brings people who are currently detached from themselves through this process have the opportunity to find themselves again. So this is really, really huge, right? All right, going into the next paragraph. In this happening, as it starts, there are many pieces of the puzzle. You have already experienced the deterioration of many things in many ways, expectations not delivered. So many places you are living instances of life that are different, and this will go on, continuing. More things you are expecting will not arrive. More places you inhabit will be different. It will be more of this. It will keep on happening. The duration will be longer, the continuation more fervored. So if you think about most of the stuff that they've been telling us about there have been specific experiences or specific things that have happened, but they have also been energies. So, and these energies, they'll show up in one place and they'll pop up kind of all over the place. So it's not a one-time thing. It's literally like an energy that we're processing through. So it'll happen in multiple locations, and this has been happening in many different ways so far. So, and they're saying that these sort of the unmet expectations is, another energies is this idea that in terms of how are we feeling, what are we holding, and that this started way back when with, oh my gosh, my daughter can't go to prom, or oh my gosh, it's there's no graduation ceremony, whatever it is, right? There's things that where the way we thought life would unfold, okay, we have to adapt, right? I can't go into the office anymore. If you go to an office, you have to work from home. All of these things this has been continuing and will continue more. And they're saying even more so that sense of it's not what I expected, that this is different. We're still okay, but it's different. And there's going to be a lot more of that. So, and they said there's many pieces of the puzzle. So there's so many ways in which this unfolding is happening. It's so many different components, and it affects so many of us in so many different ways. All right, next paragraph. It is a place of comeuppance. It is a pace of comeuppance. It is a pace unsettling to your vision, a perception of what will be next, what will be missing. How will I endure? Will this be lasting? Will it seem like it was? Will there be enough? Will I be settled? There will be enough. So I love that they just stop right there and say it flat out. There will be enough. But you are seeking in yourselves some sameness, some culmination in this origination that will draw you toward a reality that differs not far from where you start. And we say this is not our current understanding of how this will happen. There will be a gradual replacement of expectation of things unsettling as you become, in duration, more tolerant of things lacking, of not finding, of sensing the world more perturbed and upended. There is a continual thought of what will be next, and this goes on happening. So they're really speaking to our state of mind, and that has been so important in so many of the things they've been telling us is our state of mind and what are we expecting and how are we ready to receive what comes. So they're saying here that we may, as we're going through this and we're getting used to things not showing up and getting used to things being different, we start wondering, well, gosh, okay, now, I have all these things different. I have to change all my plans. I can't do things the way I thought I was going to do them. What's next? What am I going to lose next? What's going to be different next? Am I going to be all right? And will I have enough? All of these questions are natural, and they want to reassure us, yes, there will be enough. And they've said many times, like they've said that there will be shortages, but not all things, right? It's like some things absent, some things here. So it's spotty. So it's enough to shake us up. It's enough to shake us up and make us feel like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I have to do things differently. I have to think. I can't just go back on my rote patterns. I have to adapt. And that's what they're trying to get us to. So there'll be a gradual replacement of expectation, of things unsettling as you become in duration more tolerant of things lacking. So they're trying to get us more tolerant of this feeling that things are lacking, that things are different, of not finding, of sensing the world more perturbed and upended. So they're trying to build our tolerance through this whole process up until now. There's a continual thought of what will be next. And this goes on happening. And you can see how that sense of what will be next, of you're not like, it's not fear. They don't want us to be in fear, but they want us to get to this sense of being alert, waking up, right? This is waking up. So, okay, next paragraph. There are instances we have spoken of the energies complex and mixed in humanity of person against person, and how this unfolds and continues on. There are energies revolutionary, overturning of things that once were, that have been counted on, that no longer endure. The upending, overturning, reconfiguring, restarting, remaking, disassembling. This energy is current. This is happening now and will go on and continue and will become larger still. So when they said this really brings to mind for me some of the stuff that is being upended. Like think about right now, like Roe versus Wade is being upended. They talk a lot about the United States and revolutionary energy in the United States. That there's a lot of it. They say this is going to become larger still. So this idea of things that have been settled are going to be upended, overturned, reconfigured, rethought. So this is a period of a revolution. It could be of policy, it could be of countries, it could be in lots of different ways. But one specific way they have talked about is revolutionary energy in the United States specifically. So that's a big one. That's a big one. So they're kind of naming these are energies that we're going to be experiencing, and then also the energy of person against person and how this unfolds. So there's more violence of that nature, which I am very sorry to say. So, okay. So going on. All right. Next paragraph. There is an energy. Here we go. There is an energy of this in the United States. You are harboring such a fury of partisanship. That is the angel word of the day. I'm highlighting the angel words of the day. So, and partisanship, it just means bias or prejudice. Harboring such a fury of partisanship, such energy around the separation between people. And this will erupt. There will be tolls, attacks on the many, an economic hardship which will separate further, a sense of all things separating from now. The great duration of this tears apart the country. It is the instigation we have spoken about. This is coming. The time is short. It is not long. So I think this is happening sometime before the end of this year. And we already see the markets dropping. I don't think we're done with that. I think that this is sort of the precursor, and then we may have sort of a float period, and then the real whammy is coming. And I think that's going to be before the end of this year. I think this is going to unfold. If we make it to the end of this year and the US is still the US, then I will feel like we have dodged what they're talking about here. So I really feel like we're looking at it in the second half of this year. And that's me. That's not the angels, but that looking at astrology, looking at everything else, that would be my expectation. So yeah. But they are saying here, the time is short. It is not long. So, and they're talking about how here in this paragraph, okay, there will be tolls, attacks, the economic hardship, which will separate further. So we already have all this polarity, and then we are stepping into a period where the markets crash, right? And that sounds like that's a many layered problem, like lots of things getting, crazy economically. And already we're seeing that with gas prices and inflation and all this kind of stuff. And the market has tumbled a little bit, but I think there's a lot more to come. And this apparently is just like putting fuel on the fire. So we're going to be in a roller coaster ride, it sounds like to me. And you're saying, I see the same things happening in the US. Yeah, Brandy, me too. And Rebecca's saying, I love the angel word of the day. Dodging a bullet would be true. Yeah. No, it would be. So we'll just have to see how things unfold. Because there could be degrees, right? These are energies, and we see them all over the planet. Like there is already, just to say, like, how they talked about banks closing. Okay, so we have that in Lebanon. We have that in China now. There are four banks in China that have closed and are not letting people access their money. So this is already it's erupting, just like the truck drivers, right? The truck drivers, it was like Canada and Australia and England, right? Like it was all over the place. And so here we are again with the banks closing. So it's already, here and there and there. So we'll just see. We'll see. All right. Going on the next paragraph, they say, things have been happening as we have spoken, and you are accurate in your understanding that the energies we are naming come forward in many ways. So this is what we're just talking about. You can remark upon them as they evolve and transform humanity. They evolve, they change, they separate, they create turmoil and opportunity. So this is the idea that all of this, it's like getting us out of our patterns, out of our slumber, out of our ways of just, the patent life that we thought we were going to have, and making us be more awake, more attuned, more aware, and processing things in real time. All right. Next paragraph. These energies within humanity, they are moving you towards something, toward change, to be aware in all things that humanity has a shared consciousness, a shared aura, that there is between peoples in humanity a communal understanding of things. So as you are processing what comes, it does erupt and perform around the globe. To understand that these energies erupt incautiously as they would, as they are called into being by your own conscious awareness. Okay, good paragraph here. This is an interesting one, super interesting one. So this is super. They're basically saying that where these energies are moving us towards something, toward change. So bring us into change, to be aware that all humanity has a shared consciousness. So we know this about the collective consciousness. But I love here that they say a shared aura, shared. So you think of it as, when they name it as an aura, because before I was thinking of the collective consciousness as sort of this thing out there that we all tap into. But when they call it an aura, it makes me think of humanity as a living being, right? As a thing, as like a person, one giant person that is all humanity. And we are all the cells, the neurons, right, inside that person. And that person has an aura, which we all share, it's kind of a wild thought. So, okay, so they're saying that as these energies come up, the way they pop all over, like, okay, banks closing, it's happening in Lebanon, it's happening in China, is it going to happen in the United States? That it's like it's in that aura, it's in that collective consciousness, and that it's an energy. So they're saying that these energies erupt incautiously. So it's not like, oh, we're going to do it very gently. It's like the energy is there, and then how do we react? How do we feel about it? It is our perception and our reaction that then fuels that energy, right? So what energy, as that energy is circulating in the collective consciousness, what is it landing into? So in the US, if it's landing, this energy of banks closing and all around that, if that lands into this, the space that we are in right now, where there's all this, anger and violence and, gun shootings and craziness, it lands here. Well, what is that going to do to that energy? So I think it's that much more dynamic. It's like a powder keg, right? So Rebecca's saying, wow, the idea of shared humanity, we are all connected, so much so. Donna's saying brotherly love from PA. Hey, perfect. Thank you for bringing in that energy. And welcome. You're saying this is your first live. So glad you could make it. All right. So next paragraph. Here, however, it is spoken for. The United States will become disheveled. It will be a taxing economic circumstance, a derailment of great conflagration and integration of many things interrupting one another, and there cannot be found a method by which it can be avoided. And there is another angel word of the day. Conflagration means an extensive fire, a huge fire. So there we go. I probably shouldn't laugh as I'm saying that, but it's funny there. Anyways, language. There we go. Okay. So the United States will become disheveled. It will be a taxing economic circumstance, a derailment of great conflagration. So they're saying this is spoken for. So I think this is a circumstance where the energies are here, and we are in the state that we are in as a country, which is not a stable state. Like right now we're going through, hearings about was our government attempted to be overthrown or not, right? Like we're going through, like there's just so much happening right now, and there's so much division and polarity, and I could mention the gun violence. So yeah, so there's this is what it's coming into. They're saying it's spoken for, that there's no way that we can get around it. They're saying there cannot be found a method by which it can be avoided. So, and they're talking about a taxing economic circumstance. So we know this is coming specifically in the United States, and the United States does affect the world. So, so just to know that this is on the decks. And you're saying I'm going to take out my dictionary now. I know I do actually. I look up words all the time with them. All right, so here we go. Next paragraph. There are attempts now, economic circumstances attempting to pull back, to harness, to trade down, to alter, to change this trajectory, but it is spoken for. There are many who acknowledge it now, many who are attempting to ride down for the duration and make way once things are clear. But there can be no unearthing from this disaster. It will derail, yes, the United States, the economy here, and worldwide. It will separate all things. So, and I think this is super intentional. Like, I think the fact that these energies are here are as much as it feels frightening, and it makes you wonder, like, okay, well, will my savings be okay? And will my job be okay? And all of those kinds of things. And just so you know, I believe, yes. For example, I know, like, my dreams are showing me, I know from channeling that like my path forward, I'm going to be doing more traveling. And that wouldn't be possible in an environment where everything was just a disaster, right? So I know, looking at my own, like what I'm getting and my messages and what I'm being told to do, that the world, there's still going to be people, things are still going to be circulating. And they've said many times, like, it doesn't affect everybody everywhere in the same way, that there's still going to be an economy. There's still going to be stuff happening. It's just that this is what they're trying to get us to. My understanding is what they're trying to get us to is a place where the current power structures have to let go. And that's what we're after. We're trying to, because we can't just change a little bit. We can't just be like, oh, okay, all the individual people, we've gone through this COVID and we've gone through everything else. And now we sure are looking more accurately, but everything else is still the same, because it is the power structures that hold us in place in so many ways. I think about tax structures, for example. I know this is like a random thing to talk about in an angel message, but it is relevant, I promise. I think about tax policy and how it moderates behavior. How up until 2018, in the area that I live, there were like a gazillion high-end condo buildings being built. Like, there was just like tower after tower. Like, there was, like, I think more cranes, here than anywhere west of the Mississippi. And they were building all of these expensive condo buildings. And then 2018 or 2008 hit, and they all sort of, okay, who's going to buy all these expensive condos? Well, okay, so now the economy is starting to come back, but they're not building condos anymore. They're now building apartment buildings. And all of the new construction is luxury apartments. So why is that? It's tax policy, that there was a change in the way that these buildings, the way that the builders are taxed, that incented them. It made it more profitable to build condos before 2008 and more profitable to build apartments after. So, and it's just because of the tax. So that's a policy that it then has such an incredibly material effect on the world. So I'm just mentioning this to show how important leadership is, how important the power structures are, the policies that are set, shape and mold our reality in such real ways. And we are all in it. We're doing our things and having our lives. But if you want to buy a condo, it's a different world than it was in 2008, right? Or if you want to rent an apartment, so your life is being affected. So unraveling these power structures that are holding things the way they are is essential in ways that in our own little individual lives, we might not realize. And so that is why I think this really devastating economic storm has to happen, because there needs to be a disassembling of power structures that can't happen in any other way. In the economics, that's in our world right now, money drives everything. So if you want to really grab them, right where it counts, it's got to be in their wallet. So yeah, so that's my understanding of it. All right, so here we go. Next paragraph. But be aware, within this circumstance, your lives are many. You are many persons and many instances of existence. And understand, like the human body is a many-celled organism, you can have disease and have many systems offline. You can have illness, and yet parts of the body go on living. There are many cells spoken for, and those that are remaining are undisturbed. This is how you are. This is humanity. There will be this posterior movement, this drowning sensation of the economy. But to be aware that it changes not all things everywhere. It changes some things, as in all that we have been speaking. There is a difference, to be sure, but you may endure. It need not affect all beings. So I think this is important, and they keep saying this over and over again, to understand that we are living within a context, but we can go on living, and that you can continue to have your life. And so much is about our mindset. So much is about how are we receiving all of this, and how are we looking for letting go of what is gone, of realizing that the past is the past and that things are changing, and opening up to what's coming, because what's coming is going to be good, right? We have to get through it, but then what's coming is going to be good. Yeah. All right. And then be aware of the tightening, of the changing, of the need to recover humanity to the trajectory of living between, of leaning upon each other, of giving and receiving, of opening the canals of brother and sisterhood. So this is something else that they've repeated many, many times, something that they're trying to draw us toward, is this idea of helping us move toward humanity helping one another. And this is the age of Aquarius, right? This is what it's all about, is how do we find what we need through each other, through helping each other. So in difficult economic circumstances, how can we reduce, reuse, recycle, help? Like, another man's, trash is another person's treasure. That idea. How is it that we can show up for each other? If there's, produce shortages, maybe you divvy it up in your neighborhood. One person grows this thing and the other person grows that thing, and then you trade, right? How is it that we are going to rely on each other to help us get through this in a way that actually enriches our lives and makes it better? And I think that's a really cool thought. So you're saying, so thank you, Anna J. Angels, Anna and the Angels, what is spoken, I see happening in my personal life and in the community we live in. Thank you very much for that. You're saying, remember who you are, love and light. Yes, love the hope here at the end of this message. Me too. Yeah. So they always bring in hope, right? And they're really trying to show us, yes, there's difficult things, but that doesn't mean that our lives have to be difficult. All right. They go on to say, there will be many things that will be familiar that will not change. But know that toxicity is necessary. There is a needed purging for all the halls of power are overturning, and this is required for humanity. There must be a change. It cannot harden itself to this toppling effect and still achieve the ascendance that is on offer. There must be a relinquishing of the reins of power. There must be a flattening, a revisiting, a change in thinking. So this is just what we were saying, that it has to be that in all of these pressures, make it so that the current power structures cannot stay in place the way that they've been. And that will hopefully be a very good thing. It might be difficult, right? Unwinding is hard, but it's necessary, and it will get us to a better place in the long run. All right. Next paragraph. There's more turmoil yet, but as we have said, be aware that humanity is a many-layered, many-celled being, that you can go on living, that you can prosper even in the circumstances of which we are speaking. So do not lose hope. Do not feel as though you are subjected to a period of turmoil without release. There is opportunity in all things, and you can go on living and find your peace. All right. So now this was their opening message. And then I mentioned I was channeling with my son. He started asking questions. So, and he gets fairly specific about different regions of the world and everything. So I think you're going to be interested in this. So I know this is a long message, but I'm going to keep on going if you guys are still with me. All right. So his question, what is going to happen with the economy in the US? And they say the banks are closing. They are hardening themselves against great losses, which they will be subjected to. There is an opening of debt, fallen debt, an unrepayment of debt. Corporations cannot pay their debt. Banks do not have the funds they require. All things are in mid-heaven as they circulate and cannot be tied down. There are not the instruments that they require. They are all undermined and cannot cover their obligations. And so many things are torn apart all at once and unraveling. The market falls, stock markets diminish, undermining all things, rugs pulled out, undermining. This is the energy. The energy is one of undermining all things. There are things built upon that are not strong. Foundations will crumble, undermining of many things, not one, many. So this is interesting. So it's not just one sector or one thing, that it's many, and that's the issue. And they're saying that it's like the foundations that things are built on, this is what's crumbling. So it's like that's why they can't pick up the pieces. There's who's going to bail out who, right? If they're all in dire straits, who's going to bail them out? Because they're saying that it comes from so many different directions. And they keep repeating this idea of the energy encapsulated here, is that the idea of rugs being pulled out, of the foundations from. So it's the stuff that you're standing on that is gone. So that's the part that's why I say that it can't be avoided. And midheaven, another angel word of the day. So midheaven is an astrological term, and it's the top of the chart. But I think it's interesting that it is the cusp of the 10th house. So it's the cusp. It's between two things, right? It is an in between. It is the top, and it is in between. All things are in midheaven. So all things are in this in between state. So undetermined. All things are in midheaven as they circulate and cannot be tied down. So, but that is the main message here on this one, is that energy of the rug being pulled out, and it's multiple things, not just one area. So it's not just housing. It's not just stock. It's not just corporations. It's not just banks. It's everything. So, which is not great, but that's why. All right. So next one, he says, oh, how long away is this? They say, not far. In these coming months, you will see this possibility. It will occur within this period of time that we are speaking. It will occur. It is happening in starts, beginnings, but not here yet in some months. It is beginning in some months. So know that angels and time do not get along. They don't experience time the way that we do. And so it's literally like trying to speak a language you don't understand. It just does not, they can't compute, but they can say, yeah, it's close or far. And they're saying this is close. So some months. So I think that puts it at least into a frame of reference we can understand. All right. How can we insulate our finances? They say you cannot insulate yourself from it. There is no protective shell to hide behind. You would not wish it. An experience of being assembled in the world, a part of things. This is what you are learning. Therefore, do not attempt to harbor your own gates and leave your living undisturbed. Instead, understand and follow through the actions that are coming. See where development has called you now. What is moving forward? What is needed? So this is the idea. Do not stay in the rhythm of things that are departing. So that's the idea, is to not, it's not a time to like batten down the hatches and hide yourself. Like, yes, if you have, it, like, you don't want to get out of the stock market. That's pretty clear, right? Like, it's not, and I'm not an investment professional, so this is not investment advice. That's my own assumption, but definitely to get into things that would be safer, but to also, they're saying to be open, to be looking for opportunity in this, to be looking for what is the way forward, right? How do you build in this environment? And that, I think, is the mindset they're trying to get us into. They're trying to get us out of that, like, oh, I have to go hide, and to get us into, no, step into it. It's a gap. Think of it as like a chain link fence holding us all in place for the way things have been forever. And now all of a sudden that fence is going to be cut. And so do we stand still and wait for someone to mend the fence, or do we move through it, right? We go through it and we see what we can create. We see what we can do. So, and it's scary, but it could be awesome. All right, politically, he asked, politically, what's going to happen in the US? The United States will not, and this is actually really, and they've mentioned this in a channeling before, and I think it's really interesting, you guys, that the United States will not assemble itself in the same way. It will depart from the college it has belonged to and become a separated organism of many parts and parcels. It will become separated states, no longer tied together in the same way. The separation will occur gradually for some, a separation by dissolving, a separation where resources are no longer divided, and this instigates more division. So they're saying that basically that the United States is not going to look the same after this whole experience, and that it sounds like it dissolves, and that one of the reasons is because resources are no longer divided. So this instigates more division. So it's as if you think about the federal government and who is it helping? Well, is it going to help the East, or is it going to help the West? Is it going to help the South? Like, where is that money going to go? Right? Or is there money there to be shared? So its resources are no longer being divided. So resources of what could be, gas or whatever. Is that being sent equally around the country or not? And so that might be something that then fuels this gradual separation and division as these sort of structures fall apart. Next paragraph, they say, there will be some time periods of great violence among humanity. This is coming, a period of great turmoil when all will be fallen, will feel themselves beckoning toward the graves of many people. But this is not always an instance of living. There are patterns unfolding, patterns which the world has fallen into, patterns of cause and effect, of suffering, of person against person, as we had been speaking. This unfolding must stop itself. It must burn out the instance. This has not happened yet. There is still anger in the earth. It is forthcoming. It too must alter the context of this expulsion. So there is anger of the earth and suffering among humanity to come. These will unwind in time. So this is a harder passage for sure. But I think it's important to say that that it has to burn itself out, that these are energies that are here among us in humanity and in the earth. And we see it already. We see it with the war in Ukraine. We see it with the gun violence. We see it with increased volcanic activity, right? There's all this stuff happening. And they're saying that it's still coming, that it needs to burn itself out. And so there's more of this kind of thing is on the horizon. Next paragraph, the United States, you have been wondering. Yes, it is partitioned differently. There is still a central core to humanity. This is really interesting, you guys. A center core to humanity, a center self, a way of speaking and knowing about each other. There is still communication that is wise. There's still an understanding among peoples. This exists and endures and becomes larger. There is more a central focus for humanity, more becoming one with other selves, of lessening the ties that divide and making truths combined toward wholeness. This is the longer term. So this is where we're heading. They're saying that this falling apart, they're saying, okay, there may be this loosening of structures, and maybe the countries aren't defined the same way, but that we're moving towards a space. There's still one voice. There's still communication among everybody, and there becomes more sharing of truths, right? That we get to a place where we are much more unified as people. And I think that is exciting, right? As people around the world. So what is going to happen to the Seattle region politically? So he asked this. So I live in the Seattle region. So he asked this. So this may not apply to everybody, but if you're interested, here it is. This region is now the focus of no things. It is a region of left behind, of without thought. It is now enacting political margins of its own safekeeping, but it is not integral to the nation state. It is separated by its own distance. Therefore, in the process of the unfolding, this territory becomes its own self. It is separated now, but not as it has been spoken. There will be a time coming when it is no longer held in the same context as the states below it. It is made by itself and then connected heretofore to other brothers and sisters above it. It is made of its own self. A continuity evolves over time, a separated state within itself and others who participate, but not as it was. A divide has formed between this region and the others of the former United States. This will come in time. So they're saying the Northwest region could separate and become something else, and could maybe to the north, they're talking about brothers and sisters to the north. It could end up connecting somehow with Canada. So these are major changes, right? We're talking major changes. So, and they're saying this will come in time. So this is not tomorrow, but this could evolve over time. Here we go. You say we will decentralize, grow our local communities economically and spiritually. Family and friendships will become paramount. Unity, consciousness. Yes, I think that nails it. Absolutely. I think that's where we're headed. And I think we all look at that and say, yes, please, So really good things. And of course, hard stuff too, but really good things in there to be found and to be taken advantage of and to grow. All right, he asked, and here he gets into some of the other regions of the world. He says, what about war between China and Taiwan? And they say, Taiwan is unsettling itself. It is not easy in its seat. It heralds a peace that is ending. Turmoil is afoot. It will not last. It is not durable. This current state of affairs, not durable. It is not lasting. It will be a period of great conflict, and predetermined chaos is coming. So it sounds like Taiwan and China are headed for, and this is a possibility, right? This is not 100% because this is time and things change, but it sounds like Taiwan and already China has been showing aggressiveness there. So the angels are confirming, yeah, that's definitely a real possibility that Taiwan could be brought back into China and could lose its separation, its independence. They go on to say, he says, what will ramifications be across Asia? And this is interesting. They say there will be a period of great instability for many. It is coming, a period of great lax in governing, a lack of governing. This will complicate things. The matters of life become uneasy because there's no central focus. There's not the easy distribution of items, the culmination and circulation that occurs now. So this is what they're looking like. And in Asia, a huge area. So I'm sorry, it didn't get more specific than that. And I'm sure this isn't, but this could be specifically to China. I don't know how, but they're saying that there would be a lack of governing, which makes the sort of things that governments organize and like distribution networks, things like that, like how do goods get from here to there, that kind of stuff, falling apart. So that creates real complication and difficulty. It sounds like that's what they're talking about as a real possibility. Going forward. They go on to say, I would ask about the availability of manufactured goods in markets like Europe and North America if there were to be chaos in Asia. So he's very practical. Some of you are going to be so glad that he was here. They say there will be a lack of these. Not all countries will be treated equally. That all countries are experiencing the many-folded properties of chaotic distribution. There are some which are inured to the suffering, which are still producing for the West. There are some which are offering their services and goods. Some of this continues, not all, some. There is lack on offering, as we stated in previous conversation. So that's pretty clear. Basically, they're saying that some places will still be manufacturing. But they go on to say, not all things are missing, some things, but all things are complicated in some way. There are disparate items which must be collected and be assembled, and some pieces are missing, and this creates difficulties, lengthening the time period between ordering and having. And this then further delays the payment, the delays of payment, which causes businesses to slow down and stop making. This creates more lack and stagnation, and nations must speak within themselves to determine a possible way forward. It is undetermined, but can be resolved. It is possible. So they're saying one of the challenges is just with like what we're having now with supply chain shortages, that those get worse. And that if people are trying to manufacture stuff and they need parts and they can't get the parts, then they get delayed. And then if they get delayed, they don't get paid. And then that creates problems. So they're saying the governments are going to have to talk amongst themselves. They're going to have to go internally in their own countries and try to figure things out. So they say it's undetermined, that this is a problem that we will have to solve. All right. The next, and this is the last question. He says, what do people really need to know in the next few months as we experience a transition from stability to instability? I'm so glad we ended with this question. They say, the most important thing to be aware of is to stand centered within yourself, to be aware that all things will open up, will change, and this is necessary, to be inured to the concept of change itself, to accept that all things will be different, that you yourself are changing, to allow the heavens to pour forth and release and reveal what comes next, and to open yourself to it, and trust that within these parting gates there will be something for yourself, and it will be good. Move to it with alacrity, and be easy in your own skin. Fear not, fear nothing, for you are eternal. This period will be ending. There is an end in sight. It is not forever. It is turmoil, this is correct. But as you are understanding, to release the agony of desiring some other outcome opens you to the possibility, the portals of opportunity, which are revealed before you now. All right. So I told you it was a long one, you guys. So thank you so much for sticking with me. So much there. And I know so many of you asked, like, what about other regions of the world? And they did get into it. So I really wanted to share the whole thing. So I hope that was helpful. And please remember the thread of optimism and hope that they wove through the whole thing, that they're really telling us that yeah, things are going to be crazy, and they want us to know, and they want us to be prepared, but that the pathway forward is just to release our expectations and to be open and to see what's moving forward, and to go there, right? To invest in what's moving, to invest in what's drawing toward this new reality, where hopefully we are in a space where, like you were saying, with local communities, economic and spiritual, family, friendship, paramount, unity, consciousness, all of this that you're saying. Yes, exactly. Right. That's where we want to head. So let's try to put our money where our mouth is, right? Let's look at how can we invest our time, our energy, our finances in things that are going to take us there, and see what we can create together. All right, you guys, thank you so much. It's so good to be back. It's so good to be here and be able to share these messages with you guys again. So don't forget Peace Bathing this weekend. If you want to join us, it's going to be an awesome session, and I will see you next Friday live. Bye, you guys.